Hello there, fellow zombie slayers! My name is Stanley557, Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. A new beginning for the Zombies mode introduced by Treyarch all the way back in 2008. Over the years, the undead have taken many forms, with Modern Warfare 3 looking to be the next entry in the franchise. This time around, however, Modern Warfare 3 aims to combine the casual offerings of both Cold War's Outbreak and DMZ into one sprawling experimental landscape. How effective is the mode at its goals, and what ups and downs did I face in just the few short hours I had with it before making this video? Well, let's find out. To preface, I have never played DMZ, and I feel that would be an important distinction as you all listen to me ramble on about my thoughts, as Operation Deadbolt is aiming to appeal to 5 distinct audiences: fans of COD Zombies, fans of DMZ, fans of one of the modes, fans of neither of the modes, and fans of both of the modes. I want to make this clear because I only fall into the fan of COD Zombies camp, obviously. But I want to preface that because depending on where you fall in these categories, your opinions and experiences can vary wildly, so keep that in mind as we go into Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. I also want to make it clear, I only played 3 hours of gameplay. In this time, I hadn't experienced the highest threat zone, tier 3 pack-a-punch, or even a single raid and or main objective like an Easter egg, if there is one. This video is truly a first thoughts, and the reason why I'm making it so soon is because the game comes out tomorrow as of writing this video. And like my Jar on Fong review, I want people to gauge whether or not their $70 is well spent on this mode in particular. Psst, spoiler alert, it's never worth it. But without further delay, let's get into it. I'm going to start off with the positives, as there are actually a lot more that I enjoyed than I thought. For starters, the art direction is absolutely impeccable in zombie-based environments, and the enemy designs were fantastic. I particularly love the energy spewing out of the Mimic's mouth when it engages players, almost giving it a portal-like effect within its mouth. And when the team gets to experiment with neon colors, the game flares to life, like when I was doing an objective where I had to protect a reactor inside a room full of Ethereum crystals, and the building looked gorgeous. It truly set the mode apart from anything else around it, and I really appreciated that. Then there's the enemy health and the way the game structures its combat. The map is split into 3 distinct zones, with each zone varying in difficulty as you proceed into the middle of the map. There's the lowest threat zone that you spawn in, the medium threat zone, and the high threat zone found in the map center. This helps not only segment the types of enemies that you fight, but also how hard they are as well. In the low threat zone, you'll most likely be fighting the standard undead with a few special enemies occasionally thrown in there, with the enemies doing their lowest pool of damage. Whereas the high threat zone features unique enemies like the Mega Abomination and armored zombies that soak bullets and become rough targets to kill. To compensate for the system, the round and health based system has been entirely done away, allowing the developers to simplify how you upgrade your weapon, how much damage you do, and how that allows you to interact with the undead. I think this system is great, and for a more casual audience, this is an amazing way to get players into the action without needless micromanaging of round-based. Like in Black Ops 4, you have to upgrade your weapon 5 separate times just for the upgrades to become quite redundant by the time you hit the health cap. Or in games like IW and World War II, sure, the Pack-a-Punch upgrades offer you longevity and weapon viability up to the 40s, but just like other games that don't cap the health, weapon viability only lasts until the health scale's too high. In Modern Warfare 3's case, this system engages players by allowing them to do consistent and easily readable damage, something critical if you want to invest a newer audience into the mode of zombies. And in Modern Warfare 3's case, the developers managed to do a great job. I always felt like I was able to actively engage the undead, and my weapons never felt like they weren't able to cut it. It took a lot of stress off of combat, and for a mode like this, I think that's actually a really good change. Although still including Aether Wrenches and weapon rarities was something I thought we were done with when we're looking back at how Vanguard merged the 2 systems into one by just changing rarity based off of Pack-a-Punch level. Another cool feature that really stuck out to me was the loading screens. Apparently something that also belonged to ZMZ, Operation Deadbolt features loading screens that are extremely reminiscent of Black Ops 1's TV monitors. It was a super neat touch and something I immediately fell in love with. It's also just cool to see zombies as they are. Horrifying beasts of nature, leaving nothing in their wake. Then there's the change that each and every perk costs 2,000 points. No more cost per perk systems or just randomized prices that fit different perks. just 2,000 points for a perk. And considering players earn a few thousand points for doing objectives, it becomes rather satisfying to complete a side objective and purchase another perk. Adding on to this, players no longer lose their perks when they down, only losing them should they bleed out, which is a really cool change. It only took the devs 15 years to do so. And a change I feel also complements the casual-based approach. Included onto this is the ability to share points with your teammates. I have no other notes on this. That feature alone puts the game above pretty much every entry besides World War II and Extinction. And finally, there's the Xfill sequence. Funny enough, the Xfill sequence fixed all of the problems I complained about when I reviewed Outbreak during Cold War's lifecycle. In the game, Xfill was a slow and underwhelming process that required players to get a certain number of kills before Xfilling. This process was only done for the first few seconds, and after that it diminishes into a cakewalk. In Modern Warfare 3, the Xfill system has been given a complete overhaul. Attempting the Xfill will summon an army of the undead at the player's feet, in a never-ending onslaught that will attempt to overrun any player not trying to thin the horde. The sequence is exhilarating, and even when the helicopter lands, players have to hunker down in it while they wait for their teammates. And unlike Xfill and Outbreak, undead can enter the helicopter whenever they please, leaving the match's final moments as intense as the rest of the game. And it's something I'm all here for. Now, I wasn't able to find too many special enemies whenever I Xfilled, but that might be because I wasn't in a high enough threat zone when I did. And then, let's get into the negatives, with the biggest being the DMZ approach and the base the mode is built off of. This is the largest issue with the game, and one I feel is derived from the mode taking so much from DMZ in the first place. This feature will most likely be the breaking point for a ton of players, so I'll break it down the best way I understand it. In Operation Deadbolt, players have only an hour in the zone, which sounds like a long time, but goes by rather quickly for the first couple of matches. The cycle of Operation Deadbolt is a continuous loop of building and rebuilding your setup over and over again. In a normal game of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, players aren't able to get fully set up within the hour allotted time slot. To compensate for this, players slowly but surely build their kit up, completing objectives, scavenging rewards, and recovering items that can be reused for later missions. For example, if players manage to recover an ethereal wrench and Xfill with it unused in their inventory, they'll be able to stash the item and use it for a future run-through where players can try their hand at harder territories and successfully collect even more powerful loot. This is the primary gameplay loop fueled by the completion of objectives and story missions. I think what falls flat for me is the concept. When I originally saw gameplay for Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, I assumed players would go through the basic setup of zombies in an hour, with a complete game of Operation Deadbolt being all that players need to experience the full product. And while on one hand I'm happy to be wrong, on the other this feels like unnecessary padding that creates the illusion of long-term progression that is disguised as a limited pool of upgrades. If players wish to progress to the higher tiers, they'll have to spend games in the lower tiers, which I don't really think is a whole lot of fun at face value, and for the casual player, I don't think they'll be interested in playing the game for numerous run-throughs to make minimal progress on their collection of acquisitions. But, on the other side, I can also see how that's a lot of fun for players. Being able to start slow and having that long-term progression of building up an arsenal of powerful items, allowing you to break into the higher areas, might be some really good long-term progression for a lot of new players joining the series. I know for me personally, that's not really something that I quite enjoy, and I would rather be able to get the whole experience out in one go. Kinda like how you can do in most Zombies entries by just doing the whole Easter egg the first time you play the map. By the way, any of these items, or acquisitions as they're called, can be lost at any time if players consume them before the match, and bleed out, or don't properly Xfill. For those who don't know, this is the exact same gameplay loop as DMZ anyways. This is a criticism from me personally, but for those of you who like DMZ, I think you'll get a lot more out of this than a strictly Zombies fan such as myself would. Then there's the game's look. Despite how gorgeous some encounters can feel, the game's visual art style is massively held back by the more realistic looking Modern Warfare engine. And despite the hard work from the art team, the game looks just as bland as any other entry. In fact, one of Modern Warfare 3's weakest aspects is its visual style, one not too dissimilar from just about any other generic shooter on the market. What's always made Zombies, and more specifically Treyarch Zombies, unique is the mode's ability to look and play unlike anything else on the market. Its iconicism is derived from its impeccable art direction, and even more, modern entries like Cold War still manage to produce their own distinct flair. But Modern Warfare 3 Zombies just looks like another generic looter shooter. Sure, the enemies and their designs appear strictly COD zombies, the actual art direction and overall design feel like a cheap knockoff you'd find somewhere online. Then there's the minimap. Now this might be because it's my first impression, but the minimap and overall UI are some of the worst I've ever seen. You have this massive map with a million different tiny objectives all scattered about. Being able to select and pin a target location is clunky and cumbersome at best. And while the movement speed of the characters I can say is much faster than I thought, being able to locate key locations and objectives is anything but smooth. Probably one of my biggest issues is how far away essential perks are, particularly Jug. Now, this is how the acquisition system is supposed to work. You're incentivized to go through many different games collecting free canisters of Jug or any other supplemental items. Then when you respawn back into Operation Deadbolt, you can apply items such as acquisitions into your loadout. For example, like Jug. This completely cuts the middleman out of the process, and instead of having to hunt down Jug, which can be anywhere around the massive Warzone-like map, it's already instilled into your player's kit, which I can tell the developers are trying to shoot for. But I don't think this is a very fun process, and it kind of just seems to be a band-aid issue, and especially on the fact that how far away each and every perk is, especially when you consider stuff like Stamina Up, Quick Revive, and Jug are some of the game's most useful and are often across the map from each other. And then there's the UI, which is a massive mess all on its own, and it makes you wonder how it even got past QA in the first place. Another annoying aspect I really disliked was the way the characters were handled once again. Now, we all know Activision will never get rid of the operator system, but would it kill the developers to create a protagonist, or a story-driven unique character that you can play as? Someone who interacts with the world and the characters around you. This was something severely lacking from both Cold War and Vanguard, and in Modern Warfare 3, it appears to be the writers have doubled down by having our playable characters say next to nothing. And that's ignoring the characters you do have here. In Operation Deadbolt, you speak with various key figures that provide commentary throughout your objectives, with the most notable being Ravenov, who has officially made his return since his hiatus last year. None of these characters provide you with any real insight, and even if you do manage to hear them, your brain will be completely overstimulated by everything around you that they'll simply become white noise you can barely understand. As if their dialogue currently offers you any strategy or advantage anyways. And that's another issue. You can open up supply drops, items, and different boxes, and you just find random junk on top of junk on top of junk. Sure, you can sell some of these items, but your backpack space is an extremely limited commodity, so it makes you wonder why you would carry something that only offers you 10 points when workshops that you can sell points at are very, very few and far between. But honestly, another of the mode's biggest issues is the fact that it isn't free to play. If Modern Warfare 3 Zombies releases a free add-on players could download and play, then all this would be a completely different story. But because the game demands a $70 price tag, I have to rate the mode as such, and for $70, this mode is nothing more than DMZ with zombies thrown into the mix. Which is a real shame, as I feel there's a ton of potential with the idea. But the 1 hour timer combined with the weird 2 steps forward, 1 step back gameplay approach seems to leave me scratching my head as to who this game is exactly built for and what it's trying to achieve. The undead are insanely aggressive, and the mode is built upon repeated run-throughs with very little room for error, so I can see casual players facing a steep learning curve from the game. For DMZ players, the mode feels like a natural extension of the game mode, and going from PvP to PvE was a great decision. For Zombies players, there's very little substance here besides the usual undead, juggernog, and ray gun, and the gameplay hardly plays how you would expect, offering players a unique experience. And finally, there's hardcore players, who I don't believe will find all too much enjoyment here, but will be the ones to most likely experience the most out of the game mode has to offer because of their ability and expertise to survive encounters. Overall, Modern Warfare 3 Zombies is a weird little game mode that hardly justifies the price of admission. Much like my review of Duran Fong, it's difficult to recommend Modern Warfare 3 on this experience alone and based off my day one thoughts. And it's highly advised to wait till a price drop or a free weekend to try it out for yourself. So is this game worth $70 today? Of course not. But if you're a fan of DMZ and you were already looking to pick up the game, then I recommend that you give it a shot. But if you're a zombies player looking for a spin on a classic formula, you might find some of that in this mode, but it does it in such a way that any of Treyarch's iconicisms don't feel natural at all. And I believe this isn't exactly what many people might hope it could actually be. But I'll still remain optimistic, and I'm going to review this game mode over the current year. And by the end of it, I would love to see how it starts and how it ends. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching. And remember, keep on slaying.